Look, most of us fundamentally misunderstand what our actual job is. We tend to think that if we show up, check all the boxes, and just stay busy all day, well, we're doing our jobs, right? But in this explainer, we're going to dive into a completely different, highly practical operating standard, one that completely strips away the illusion of busy work. The core premise we're tackling today is incredibly simple, but I promise you, it changes absolutely everything. Work is not tasks, work is relief.
We need to shatter this illusion right out of the gate. You can perfectly complete the checklist. You can sit through every single meeting, send all the files, deliver the assets, write a massive report, and follow the standard operating procedure flawlessly. But completing the task does not mean you created value. If the person actually receiving your work is still left with uncertainty, or delay, or rework, or a bunch of unanswered questions, you haven't actually helped them. Someone's life literally has to become easier.
To really see this, we've got to look at two entirely different realities. On one hand, you have tasks completed, which is just activity, hours spent, and reports generated. On the other hand, you have relief received, which means less friction, a clearer path, and a much lighter problem for the recipient. Tasks are simply the container. Relief, that's the actual value. A person can follow every single step of a process perfectly, but if they just transfer their confusion to the next person in line, the work totally failed. So this brings us to a pretty stark reality. Being busy is absolutely not the same as being useful. Activity is not relief. The real test of your daily output isn't whether the activity just happened. It's whether that activity created tangible, real-world relief for someone else. And that leads us to a radical redefinition of work itself. Your work is not what you do. It is what becomes easier for someone else because you did it. Work is strictly value transfer. If nobody's life became easier, the work may have happened, but the value did not. Honestly, it doesn't matter how your title changes or what fancy new tool you use, the real job is always making someone's life easier in a way that actually matters. In practice, this value transfer always takes one of 6 specific forms. You can reduce pain, you can reduce confusion, you can reduce time, or reduce risk. Alternatively, you can increase confidence or increase progress. Think about it. Your real job title, no matter what it says on your business card, is always just some variation of one of these 6 outcomes. Okay, once value is actually visible, the next crucial question you have to ask is, who feels it? Who receives relief because this work exists? I really want you to apply this standard across the board right now. True relief must be felt by someone specific. It could be your colleagues, the direct reports you manage, or the external buyers and clients you serve, but someone has to feel it. Internally, we see this all the time between colleagues, right? A bad handoff just transfers confusion. We call that internal handoff friction. A good handoff, though, creates a cleaner, faster path, a truly usable handoff. So, hitting send on an email and running away from your desk, that doesn't mean the handoff is complete. It is only complete when the next person can actually use it without having to redo it. Internal work is still customer work when it protects that final outcome. And we can apply the exact same standard to leadership. Foggy leadership uses complexity to protect authority. It demands accountability but provides zero clarity. Strong leadership, however, creates a clear next action. A strong leader reduces the fog. They define what good looks like way before judging failure. If your team constantly needs you to interpret everything for them, actually, scratch that. You didn't create clarity at all. You just created dependency. This standard is also a massive warning sign against what I call decorative work. Activity can look highly professional while still being completely useless. Think about those beautiful, heavily designed 50-page reports that literally nobody ever reads, or meetings that result in 0 decisions. The dashboards exist, the calendars are packed, people are rushing around, but the recipient is still waiting, still confused, and still forced to ask for what they need. And guess what? Decorative work is the very first thing that gets cut when the pressure rises. Now, when we shift our focus over to the external buyer or the client, the standard gets even harsher. Did the promised value actually arrive? The buyer does not care about your internal process. They just want the lighter life on the other side of your promise. The market does not pay for your effort. It pays for the change your effort creates. This is where a concept called the negative price standard gets highly uncomfortable for some, but incredibly effective. -1 turns a vague, feel-good claim of "I helped" into a sharp, undeniable demand: prove the relief or accept the consequence. It completely removes the cozy comfort of just hiding behind activity. The logic here is just unavoidable. Effort is not the product. If the promised value is delivered, sure, the seller keeps the price. But if the promised relief is missing under clear conditions, the seller accepts a defined consequence. The price goes negative. -1 doesn't pat you on the back for trying. It tests whether your effort actually became value. Now, when people hear the word penalty, they usually panic and imagine someone pointing fingers and assigning blame. But in a serious operating system, a penalty is just a signal. As this concept outlines, a penalty is expensive information about missing relief. It simply tells you that a promise was unclear, or a handoff failed, or maybe a timeline was just a complete fantasy. It is vital information showing you exactly where your system is broken. So when that penalty hits, the correct reaction is not defending the activity. You definitely shouldn't hide the guarantee or make your claims harder to verify. No way. The correct reaction is repairing the missing relief. You tighten your definition of value, you upgrade your delivery, you fix that bottleneck, and you shorten the time to relief. To ensure your output actually becomes a human outcome, you need a different kind of tool. We call it the relief map. This is the practical center of this entire philosophy. It's an operating lens you can apply to literally any role, offer, deliverable, or process to connect the recipient directly to the specific friction your work is supposed to remove. Let's walk through the exact questions that make up this relief map. Take any task on your calendar right now and ask yourself, first, who is the recipient? Second, what friction, delay, confusion, pain, or risk did they have before? Third, which form of relief should this work create? Fourth, how will the recipient know life is easier? Fifth, what proof shows that relief happened? And finally, what should change if the relief is missing? That fifth question about proof, it is absolutely vital. Proof is how relief stops being just a nice feeling and becomes a strict operating standard. We're talking about observable, real-world changes like shorter response times, lower rework, or clearer decisions. If the relief cannot be seen at all, well, the claim of value is simply too vague to trust. You see, people who create real value do not fear accountability. They actually want clearer standards. They want visible proof. Because ambiguity protects activity. Measurement protects value. The only people who hate measurable outcomes are those who benefit from hiding behind the ambiguity of quote-unquote hard work. Accountability isn't anti-human. It actually reveals and protects the real value that humans create. And this standard of measurable relief and clear consequences is actually being put into practice publicly. NegBook is the first book in the world with a negative price. Its battle cry is either you read the book and it helps you, or you read the book and it pays you. You can see this operating standard in action right now at www.negbook.com. It just proves that value should always be clear enough to be judged fairly. So here is the practical challenge I want to leave you with today. Before you defend how hard you worked this week, do this. Map the relief. Then apply for the -1 diagnostic. Link in description, negbook.com/negative-price standard. Test your own offers. Test your workflows. Look at your calendar, look at your task list, and look at your deliverables. Are you just transferring confusion, or are you actually removing a burden? That choice dictates your true value. Stop selling effort. Start creating relief.